Hello and welcome. Welcome to another meetup with Avanscoperta for our series An Evening With. Today we are here with Matteo Cavucci, hailing from Germany. Hey Matteo.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Ciao. Good to see you again. So Matteo is one of our trainers and good friends, and today he'll be presenting a meetup, as you are all aware of. This meetup will be about how to prioritize business ideas, how to validate them, and making sure that we are building the right product for our customers. So before leaving the stage to Matteo, I'd like to remind you can use the YouTube chat to type your questions as we go along during the talk. We'll be stopping 1 or 2 times during this meetup so that we can read the questions out loud. And also there will be a Q&A at the end of the session as well. You can do so even if you're on mobile. The chat will appear just below the video. Last but not least, Matteo is the trainer of one of our workshops. This workshop is called Product Discovery with the Lean Value Tree. I'm sure Matteo will dig a little bit into that as well during the presentation. And we'll share the links later on as well. So Matteo, over to you.
Thank you, Enrico. So let's start sharing my screen so you can see what I prepared for you tonight. Okay. You should see my screen now, right? Correct. Great. So first of all, thank you for having me tonight here. And again, thank you very much for all the people that are connecting now. They are here to attend this meetup. I mean, it's a pleasure for me to join once again the Avanscoperta family. And also, I mean, it's a proper pleasure also to introduce something that I'm particularly into, which is prioritization. In general, prioritization is a very useful tool, not just for work, but also in life. And tonight, I would say that we're going to get like a very deep dive into all the techniques and the principles that will allow us to make like the right decisions when it's about to select what's next. So let me start from a brief introduction about myself. So Enrico already told you that I'm connecting from Germany because although I'm Italian, I'm living in Berlin since 6 years now. My primary job is relatively to help executives, managers, and teams to produce better software, basically. And doing that means that we need to understand what is the best thing to do to execute, what are actually the right thing to build. And I love to do that by doing it, not just teaching or showing or coaching, but I also love to get my hands dirty and practice myself the things that I'm preaching. So I said already that tonight is going to be about taking decisions, about making, let's say, the right thing in order to understand what are the stuff that we have to build next. And I would start sharing with you something that you probably know. Well, I'm sorry. First of all, I need to give you an overview about what's going on and all things that I would like to share with you. This presentation is basically split in two, although I would love to get a proper connection with you also during the presentation itself. So every time there is something that you would like to ask, please feel free to use the YouTube chat and post your questions there. My presentation is basically around those things that you see on the left side. So starting from looking how teams normally prioritize, what is the economic prioritization, what is behind this idea of value first. Then, I mean, starting to understand what does it mean cost of delay, and of course, how to apply those things in practice. Again, like you can look at those things and you can tell me like if there is anything that particularly resonating with you, with your experience, if there is something that doesn't sound particularly convincing or is particularly challenging to implement in your own organization. I would love to hear your thoughts, your takes on this, and again, like your experience. I was saying already that, again, like I like to start with a proper observation that probably already many of you got the fact that there is nothing exceptional about a huge backlog. So we hear people saying like, oh, there are so many things that we have to do, and we are full of things, and it seems that we are an infinite list of things that we need to get through. Well, that's the norm. And especially when we are building software, this is actually pretty natural. It happens everywhere. So there is nothing strange, like if you have like a very long list of things that you have to get through. Because again, like when we are talking about software, ideas are basically unlimited. There are people coming in, there are things that comes out of the, I don't know, CEO's brains, as well as, I don't know, customers and I don't know, like sales department, marketing people, even developers themselves. Like they have like plenty of ideas, and all of them are actually, they are competing themselves to get, let's say, the right spot. And I would say, what is the right question? Again, like if we have like a lot of things to build, what we have to do? So let's say the easiest fix, the best approach would be like do everything now. And by doing that means that we're going to employing an unlimited and trained and talented team that will deliver everything instantly. That would be the perfect fix, right? So we're gonna get like a long list of things, and applying, let's say, unlimited resources, we are gonna get through them like in seconds. Unfortunately, that's not the case, because reality looks really different. And reality starts from the fact, from stating this fact that demand is always bigger than the available capacity. So it means that there are always many ideas, more, so much more than we can actually address. So this is a sort of constraint that is a fundamental constraint that we can see on everyday life, but applies very well also when we're working. Again, like there is always a very long list of things. And again, like our capacities, our ability to address them is always limited, no matter how many people we have, no matter how many consultants we are going to hire, how many people we are going to onboard from external organizations, external teams, offshores. It's always that the demand is going to be bigger than the available capacity. So to answer the question, what's next? So to understand what is actually the best way to produce after the thing that we are currently doing, the right approach will be this one here. So something that would is the more advanced, the thing that will be more advantageous, sorry, given the fact that we cannot do it everything. So there is actually this limitation that we have to deal with. And how teams normally behaves, like when we have organizations facing those kind of problems, those fundamental economical problems, well, the first approach, probably I would say one of the most common approaches, is definitely the hippo method. So that's something that you probably heard already. So hippo means the highest paid person's opinion, and basically means like asking the most important, let's say, person to take a decision. And sometimes, I mean, again, like we are not talking about the smartest, we are not talking about the most experienced person, we are talking about the one that is perceived as the most important, and the person that has most let's say, influence inside the organization. I mean, even though, I mean, looking at, let's say, from perspective sounds like a very, very crazy approach, it has some pros, right? Because it gets like very straight to a solution. So the effort is basically the same. We just have to ask the person and the person have to answer. So it's pretty straightforward, the mechanism. Sometimes those people are open, so they will be happy to listen and learn from mistakes. But on the other side, we see that there are some limitations, and those limitations are huge, I would say. First of all, is the fact that those people are not always available. So sometimes it's really hard to catch them to take a decision, and you can just, lying around with something to do, and you don't know what's going on because this person is just unavailable. All things that will take, all the decisions that will be taken by this method is basically something coming out from a very subjective process. So there is nothing that it can be discussed or can be, let's say, splitted and explored, because basically there is this person taking their decision as they want. And of course, like it might be the case that inside an organization, especially in large organizations, we may have the case of office politics, let's say. So people will take decisions based it on something that is not, let's say, an objective measure of value, but is more about, let's say, personal preferences, or I don't know, something that they can get, let's say, back on relationships inside the organization. Again, like if we're thinking about this approach, which again, like it sounds crazy, although I mean is vastly adopted, we may say that the effort required to conduct analysis with this method it's pretty low. I mean, it doesn't take too much. But on the other side, let's say the chances of making a suboptimal decision, so basically means that the chances that we can actually be wrong with this method, they are actually pretty high. So yeah, I mean, it's efficient. We're talking about time, but definitely is not precise, neither accurate. So the things that we can get out of this are basically, I mean, they can be wrong. They can actually lead us to the wrong decision. So what's actually other approaches? What are things that people do? Again, like as a consultant, I had the chance of visiting many different teams and organizations, and I have the chance also to see how they work. And I would say that probably the most popular approach is something similar to this one here. So something that will consider the value as the main principle to organize decisions around. So it's about thinking how much we can get out of a single feature and basically compare this with other things. I mean, when we are talking about value, we have to stop for a second and think about what does it mean? Because sometimes I have the feeling that people doesn't agree on a proper definition of value. I like this one here that I put below the title that says like the value added is basically the difference in the price that an economically rational buyer would pay for a work product before and after the activity is performed, which means that it's the customer that will decide how much they would pay, they are open to pay for an activity that will be performed. And again, like this approach is rather, I mean, is rather better than the hippo approach, because I mean, it introduces a better discussion. So we can actually see people getting around and start confronting themselves around what is actually the most valuable thing that are on the table. There are actually some kind of research that can be applied. It's a rather consistent approach because again, like it means that all the ideas will be scaled according to hopefully a shared idea, shared understanding of value. Although on the other side, I have to say that it's pretty hard to understand the value of something, especially before doing it. So sometimes when we are approaching ideas, we don't know actually what is the value that this idea is going to produce. So yeah, of course, like we can do discovery, and this is definitely something we can put in place in order to reduce uncertainty and risk. But on the other side, we cannot be 100% sure about how much is going to be the value here. And again, like I will be back on this concept, this particular concept later on. But at the moment, again, like prioritizing according to value, it means that also we're not considering other important factors. Again, like just value is not enough. We might see that, again, like it's definitely more efficient when we're talking about making or decisions that are, let's say, more accurate and more precise, but it would definitely require more effort. So it's not that fast and rapid as the hippo method, but again, like it requires some thinking, something that will take like people focusing on discovering information and getting things out of their mind in order to scale and weight different ideas. And again, like if we compare those things, you can definitely see the difference. I was saying already that, like approaching teams that uses value, sometimes I found that they are using something, let's say, something like this one here. So a matrix where they are confronting the expected value with the effort, with the expected effort required. Because again, like all those conversations mostly occurs when things are, let's say, on assumption level. So they know that something is going to take some kind of effort. There is some kind of a value that we would expect out of it, but it's rather different. It was rather difficult to assess it before we will commit to doing something. Although, I mean, again, like this is a rather popular method, like introducing a different variable, I mean, a different dimension to evaluate idea. And I have to say that, okay, this is a huge leap forward from the hippo perspective. So here we have like different conversations. This is normally when we have like tech leads and tech people getting in the conversation. So we see product people, business people expanding, let's say, their ideas, including the technical perspective. But I would say that this has fundamental flaw, because every time we are discussing idea, we are taking ideas one by one, and even if we're measuring them against each other, we can actually we can take apart a fundamental, let's say, a dimension of value here, that is basically summarized with the short sentence. I mean, the fact that if we're investing on doing something, there are some other ideas that has to wait. So all the rest, they have to basically be parked, and we have to wait until we're done in order to pick the next one. Doing one thing means that we are going to apply a delay to other ideas. And for this reason, I believe that most of the teams has to rethink the way they're prioritizing, because it needs to be to happen this kind of shift from the current approach that will basically go from considering just the value of doing something, or to a place where we can have also a look of the impact of delay. So the impact of parking, all the rest of the opportunities that we have in order to focus on something specific. And again, like here, what makes everything even more complicated is the fact that different items have different economic impact on the delay. So it's not that all the ideas will get like the same, will be affected by the same loss of value if they're going to be parked. So how can we do this? What are the things that will allow us to, let's say, to understand better, to have better conversations and start to understand what is this impact of delay and how this can be integrated in our processes and the way we're basically doing work on a daily basis. Well, there are so many different methods, I have to say. So there is not just one thing that we can apply. So if I stop and think, I mean, if I put, let's imagine to create a sort of a spectrum here, where we have like things that are, let's say, very easy, rapid, but exposed to mistakes on the left side. So like random choices, like if you throw a dice, let's say, and you pick your choice on that using a dice, things will be effective on time and effort that is required to take a decision. But on the other side, again, like the chance to making a suboptimal decisions are pretty high. So it means that you can actually be fooled by this approach. But if we go through all the spectrum and we're going to the very end here on the right side, we will see that we have like methods that can go very deep into understanding the economic impact of a new feature. So we can spend a lot of time creating a model, doing lots of research, involving a lot of people, doing a lot of complicated math around what is going to be the value on a specific one. But this is going to be tremendously time consuming. So the effort required to get an optimal decision using those methods are super high. So the idea here is not to apply the most precise way to do something, but it's more about finding a sweet spot on the spectrum here. So it's not about, like, it's finding a formula, a solution that will allow us to be right all of the times. It's more about, like, let's say, applying something that can give us the opportunity to spot the important things, and again, like, do not commit on too much analysis and too much efforts. Yeah, I mean, let's look back at our diagram where I will start collecting different methods and different approaches. I mean, you see the hippo method here being ranked very high when we're talking about the chances to make suboptimal decisions. But you see also other things that can be basically ranked using this two-dimension spectrum analysis, let's say. So of course, like the value first, as I mentioned, then we can introduce multiple values, multiple dimension to assess the value itself. Then you see the value and duration. That is another method that we can actually apply here. Multifaceted value and duration. And again, like a long-term impact of delay. So every time we are introducing a new dimension, a new way to assess value, effort, and cost of delay, we are increasing the effort required to analysis, and we are reducing the possibilities of being wrong. But again, like, this is a spectrum. It has so many different nuances, and our job here is going to be like finding a sweet spot. So finding the best balance between applying all those different things in the right way. To introduce this topic, I mean, to give you why it's so important to find something that will be accurate but not precise, I will introduce you briefly mention this case that is called the Maersk case. So if you don't know Maersk is a big carrier based in Scandinavia that basically they do logistics at global level. Is a huge company, and it's basically a place where there are so many things that need to be optimized. Let's put it like this. And there's a lovely business case that you can actually find on this URL on the bottom right corner on this website called theblackswansfarming.com. So what happened? It happened a while ago. People were called to analyze all the different things that Maersk implemented, software-based we're talking about, but in the software field for on the last, let's say, couple of years. I don't remember specifically, but what is actually relevant here is to see that if they were looking at all the different ideas, all the different features that have been implemented, they were actually, there was something that was actually pretty evident. So the fact that a minor percentage of the whole volume of ideas that have been implemented, they were responsible for the most money coming in. And then all the rest were actually order of magnitude lower than the first segment, let's say. Those are actually representing 20%, 25% of the total. So the first 25% was responsible to getting most of the money from Maersk. And this means that you can actually be even more specific. So we can actually see if we are projecting this, if we're applying this model for future ideas, we can definitely think about this. We can think about, let's say, a top 10% of ideas that will produce a massive impact, something that something that we don't have to miss, because again, like, those are going to be the big fish. Those are something that are going to give us the opportunity to be sustainable and the best options that we can have to pursue. Then on the other side, let's say on the right side, you see that there are many ideas that can be easily parked and they can wait. So most of those things, like if we keep them parked, they will not have a relevant impact on our operation. And then, I mean, in the middle, in the middle, this is where we have to apply our magnifier, and we have to look closer to what we're talking about in order to understand if there is something valuable that, let's say, will belongs to the top 50%, or something that goes more on the right side and goes more to ideas that can wait and can be parked, let's say, for the moment. Again, like, we need to have a model, we need to have a process that will allow us to spot the big fish, to spot the top 10%, to analyze the muddy middle, and to understand also what is actually possible to park and to make it wait for the moment. So that's why I'm saying that we don't have something that will be applied to all ideas in order to understand where we are. But again, like, we need a sort of a compass that is giving us the right direction, and to understand which are basically those three big buckets. This slide here summarizes basically why this is important, what is the core of this approach. Again, like, what we want to pursue here is something that will encourage a better economic decision making. So something that is based on economical principles, it's not something based on subjectivity or other things. So we need to understand what are the best things that we have to pursue given the resources, given the constraints that we have. Again, like, this is probably the most relevant point to me, because I see so many teams applying, let's say, doing the opposite. We have to use the lightest analysis method in order to get the decision. So we don't have to overthink. So we don't have to invest the maximum amount of energies to get something out of that. So our goal is basically to find the best tool for the job. And again, like, all of this is meant to be a conversation starter. So everything that we're going to show there, I'm going to show you, and later we can discuss, is meant to be something that will reveal information through conversation. So something that will bring on a table, on a team, on a virtual table, and allow people to share their ideas and to spot also some kind of, I don't know, differences between mental models and different approaches. It's also about always finding better ways to measure and estimate. So it's all about, let's say, introducing this idea of continuous improvement. So again, like, we're not talking about a fixed recipe that you can apply and you're going to be right 100% of cases. But it's going to be something, let's say, more like a starting point, so you can actually see if something needs to be changed and needs to evolve. And we also see how those things can evolved already. Again, like, it's about including diversity and different points of view, because the more we can get, the better the outcome will be. And of course, like, everything is going to be about reducing risk, because the more information we're going to get, the less uncertainty we're going to find. Is not, again, like, there are pitfalls here, so there are don'ts. And again, like, I will probably not stressing enough about this point, is not about applying complex analysis when it's not needed. So it's about finding the right tool for the right context. And again, like, one thing that we have definitely to consider is the delivery time. So we need to have a rough idea about how much is going to take doing something, even, I mean, a relative idea, but this is fundamental. We're going to see that. And again, like, ignoring this is going to lead us to suboptimal decision. Again, like, we don't want to shift the conversation only on value, because when we are talking just value, we will see people sometimes going on arms race. So basically trying to inflate the perceived value of something in order to get their idea win. So this is something that is called, like, the biggest liar win syndrome. So that's, again, like, we need to be extra careful about when we're considering value alone. And that's why we need to put value always in perspective and together with other measures that can give us, let's say, a different perspective. And again, like it's about going out from the hippo trap. I mean, escaping the hippo trap, because there are better ways to do prioritization. There are better methods. There are something that we can apply that can give us, let's say, a better understanding of what are the things that we're going to decide. And again, like hippo is not the only options that we have. Okay, I'm stopping at the moment to see if there are any questions, but it seems that they are not, right?
Not yet.
Okay, don't be shy. Again, like if you see something that particularly resonates with you, or particularly interesting that you want to get a bit more into details with me later, just use the chat. I will be happy to find out together if there are anything that are particularly relevant for you. Okay, so let's look closer at what we can do in order to make better decisions. Again, like to decide what's next in a better way that is not just the hippo or the value discussion. Again, like one very popular solution, I would say, is called the weighted shortest job first. So the weighted shortest job first is a multifaceted method. So it's a conversation where we're going to look at specific idea, specific feature request. I mean, a specific bet, if you want to just consider the idea as the currency here. So basically, it's giving us the possibility to examine this idea under different perspectives, different points of view. You see here that this is basically the formula. So there is a user business value, time criticality, and risk reduction, and all of them have to be added into a number. And then it has to be divided over a job size. So we do have those 4 dimensions, again, like the user business value, the time criticality of something, and the risk reduction. So the amount of uncertainty that building this thing is going to give us for the entire project, for the entire product that we are building, over the job size. This is actually, I mean, is a big shift on the way we are looking at ideas and features, because it gives us, let's say, more than one type of value. Like we are talking about customer value, we are talking about business value, but we are also talking about, I mean, urgency, like time criticality. We are talking about risk reduction, which means, let's say, is about like introducing more information in the equation, let's say, in the understanding of the product and the customers here. And also we are talking about job size, which means that we're basically scaling our ideas, considering also the effort, how much is going to take in terms of time, in terms of let's say, busy time. Although, I mean, it has some flaws. Again, like it has some cons. There are those 2 that I try to summarize with those 2 points. Basically, the fact that it mixes up different units, and the inputs that comes in are normally unscaled. I'm trying to give you an example to be more specific about those points. Because again, like this WSJF, the weighted shortest job first, comes from the work that people did around the SAFe framework. And normally people find very, very funny to say bad things about SAFe, but I believe that there are also good ideas. Of course, like, yeah, it's actually pretty debated, everything around SAFe. But I would say, again, like this is actually comes with a good intuition. Although if we apply those things in practice, and again, like I had the chance of practicing those things in the wild, we will see that again, like something needs to be adjusted, and this is perfectly fine. Again, like it matches this idea of taking something and trying to make it better. So how the WSJF works in reality? So normally says, like, for each dimension, for each parameter, just pick a number, and for let's say simplicity, just use a Fibonacci scale. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, whatever. And then, I mean, calculates the WSJF, basically using the formula that I showed you before, and starts doing the highest WSJF if it's possible, like starting from there. So here I was actually trying to reproduce something that I've seen, again, like working with teams. Let's imagine that we have like 3 different features, feature A, feature B, feature C. And for simplicity, I put risk reduction 3 for everybody and for everyone, for every ideas here, every feature. And variable value, variable time criticality, and job size. You will see that it works really well because it's giving us, again, like the opportunity to talk about different dimensions and to measure, at least to have like sort of a proxy, sort of a heuristic to assess this idea. Although you see the case, again, like which is an edge case, but again, like it happened for real. That an idea, for example, again, like a feature, let's take feature B, that has very high time criticality, so it has a 5, and it has a relevant value, so it has a 3 on the value, it's not gonna be the first thing to be developed. So feature C that has value 5, but time criticality 1, so something that virtually can wait, is gonna get like a 9 as a value, as a total value, which means that according to the classic, the safe recipe here, the safe approach, feature C is going to be our first idea to be developed. Although, I mean, feature B has a very high time criticality factor. Again, like this is an edge case, I have to say, so it's not so common to step into those things, but it can actually happen. And it reveals the fact that using those measures, again, like value, time criticality, and risk reduction on the same level is not probably going to be appropriate in some cases. So how can we make it better? There was this idea coming from Joshua Arnold, which is also the author of the Maersk case that I mentioned before. During a conversation with this other very smart guy called Martin Burns, we're coming out with this different approach. So remixing those factors in order to give time criticality a better spot. So let's say giving the time criticality more importance in order to see what are things that we have to do next according to what is actually the most critical thing to do in terms of time. So taking the same number of the previous example, so we will see that this time here, the value, the results are very different. So the feature A takes 6, which basically is just, like 3, 3, 3, and 3. But feature B, which is highly relevant in terms of time criticality, it gets a 15. While feature C, that was #1 priority on the previous example, was actually getting only at 8, which is, I mean, again, like is higher than the average, is higher than a 6 that we can actually get out of the feature A calculation, but it's less relevant than feature B, because again, like feature B delivers a right amount of value, but it has very high time criticality, I think. Again, like, I don't know if talking about math at 7:40 p.m. is the best way to engage with the audience that are sitting at home. But I would really love to hear if something is unclear or you would like to point out something coming out of those examples. Because again, like this is something that I experienced firsthand. But again, like it might be the case that some of you has different experience or just a different take on those numbers.
So we do have one comment from Simone. Hey, Simone. Says, awesome so far, keep going. So what I'll do, I'll call Simone for the first question when the talk is over. So Simone, get ready, you're the first. But I guess for now we can carry on with the presentation.
Yeah, I think it was actually again like we are getting really deep into those methods, and again, like for given the time we are now, it's probably I mean, it requires an extra brain power to get into numbers and math. All right, so what's next? We've seen that probably time criticality, it's what makes the decision making here very, very important. Again, like if we're going to give time criticality more value, we need to understand more what does it mean. And again, like ideas can be affected by time in different ways, many different ways here. I've been collecting, let's say, 4, which are, let's say, the most common. And again, like they are also coming out from the Myers case. But I would say that they are very handy when I'm working with teams, because they represent probably most of the cases that I found working on real software projects. So starting from the top left, there are some ideas, there are some features that has short life cycle, and their peak is affected by delay. So you see the representation, the graphic representation here, that on the y-axis you have like the benefit realized in terms of money, in terms of returns, and the time that basically the market time, I mean the lifespan or the life cycle, sorry, of that specific feature. So you see that in this specific case, on the first one on the top left, entering the market late, it means that we have like a reduction on the value that we can get out of that feature. And again, like we will not get the wave, so we will not get the peak. So our peak is going to be reduced. So the total amount of value that we can actually get out of that is going to be reduced. But again, like given the short life cycle is there, it's actually quantifiable. We can actually see that. And this is the case of fast moving consumer goods. Like when we're talking about something that is particularly fashionable, that we need to be just in time there, missing the wave means that we're going to have, like, say, less revenues out of that and less value extracted. So the second one, again, like going clockwise, is going to be just a second, is going to be a long life cycle, and the case where the peak is affected by the delay. So you see here again, like the graphical representation where we missed the initial point where value starts ramping up, and not being the first mover is giving us a huge disadvantage. So the fact that we're basically experiencing a network effect that our competitors can actually attract. So for example, in case of social networks or other products that will require, I don't know, building a network, or again, like servicing or having customers, I'm thinking about B2B, for example. If we have a feature that is particularly relevant for a class of customers, missing that means that our, let's say, the target, the market that we can target is going to be reduced, and is going to be reduced, let's say, forever. You see here that this has a very long life cycle, and missing this, I mean, again, like parking this idea has a huge impact on the total revenues that we can get on the long distance. Number 3, let's say, going clockwise, is the impact of an external deadline. This is an interesting case because depends a lot, I have to say, from which kind of deadline we have to deal with. And I would say that dealing with deadlines has an interesting corollary. So the fact that for ideas that has a specific time that needs to be delivered, we can wait. So we can wait until we are approaching the deadline and then developing things just before the deadline. Because if we're going to be, let's say, if we're going to release sooner, there is no real advantage. So let's think about something, again, like I'm putting here an example as regulation-driven features. So let's think about something like GDPR. If we're implementing GDPR 1 year before the regulation imposed the adoption, there is no actual value on having that feature. Although, I mean, we need to be sure that by the time that this required, all the GDPR regulated systems are going to be in place and according to the regulation. Again, like if not, well, the value is going to be reduced massively. So we need to catch up. And again, like here, there is also a dimension of risk. The fact that if something doesn't work legally wise, we can be suited and we can get like a huge spike on risk. The last one here on the top left corner is related to long life cycle and peak unaffected by delay, which I have to say is the most common case. So those are features that we're going to develop and we're going to launch somewhere. But when we're going to launch determines how much value we're going to leave on the table. Again, like you see the dotted line, you see the blue line, and the difference between those two lines, basically this is the value that we are losing if we're not acting at the right time. Again, like the most closer is are those lines, the less value we are losing. And for example, here I'm thinking about automating process, improving efficiency, like doing something that would make something going faster, better, or more reliable. Again, like we need to understand when is the optimum in order to extract more value from those things, from the specific feature. Again, like this is getting complicated, and I don't know again like if people can follow me examining those profiles. But again, like I'll be very happy to answer your questions and to come back here once we have somebody that would be interested. Let's look at this other example, because I was mentioning before that understanding the job size is really crucial when we're talking about cost of delay. Because if we have to quantify, let's say, the cost of delay, we need to understand also how much is going to take for us to process something. And again, like we don't have to be precise. So we don't want to have like a super detailed model that is going to give 100% correct estimations. But we need to have at least a rough idea about how much is going to take us to work on a specific feature. Because look at this diagram. So we have like two features, task A and task B in this case. And they have, let's say, unexpected revenue, or let's say unexpected. Yeah, let's look at this. Let's take this as a let's approach this in this way. So let's imagine that we can get us, like, say, 250K from task A and from task A, while task B is going to give us to return only 100K out of the operational cost, operational value that we can extract from them. And let's have an idea. Let's put the fact that a task A is going to require us 2 weeks in order to put it in place, to put it at work, and task B is only asking 1 week. So we see that in the first case, we have a cost of delay of 200K. Because task B is going to be delayed by 2 weeks, the weeks that we are going to invest on producing task A. And what we're going to lose is basically the 2 weeks of working solution of task B. While if we're prioritizing task B before, the cost of delay is going to be 250K, because again, like parking task A, it means that we are basically leaving 250K for each week that task A is going to be parked. So even the second model here, the one on the right, is basically shortened. So it's giving us the possibility to be out with something new, like task B faster. It's not the most economical decision that the most convenient economical decision, given the fact that on the left side we're only parking for 200K. So this gives me the opportunity to introduce this other method, which is called the cost of delay divided by duration. And the cost of delay divided by duration is normally what the cool kids do. So this is normally something that is way advanced. But when we are talking about, let's say, serious stuff, we will see a lot of this approach applied on real life. So basically means that we have to calculate exactly as I showed you before on the example, how much money we will get out of a specific feature, and we are going to apply it as a cost of delay. So it means that if we're going to park something, this is going to have a cost, which are missing revenues or something different. But again, like this is going to have a cost. And we are going to basically compute this cost over the job size, because again, like the job size here plays a huge role, because it's giving us the idea about how much we have to, for how long we have to park other things before we can start with something else. So if we see CD3 practice, we can actually see how our feature A, feature B, and feature C will be prioritized. So in this case, again, like we keep applying Fibonacci for the duration. So we don't, again, like we don't have to be precise. We need to be accurate. And we can give them, let's say, random numbers like 5, 1, and 2. But we're introducing here dollars. We are introducing here real money. And this giving us the opportunity to use this as basically as a proper proxy for value. So we see here the value that we will extract out of those features, and we see $10, $40, $50. Those might be per week, and let's say also the duration can be also per week. And the computed score here is giving us something that is really relevant when we're talking about decision making, because again, like we see feature B being prioritized because it has a very high cost of delay and very low duration when we're talking about job sizing. So again, like this is definitely the place to look at. But this part here is more relevant for understanding how to use those things, because again, like we've been through, let's say, different approaches on this kind of spectrum, trade-off spectrum that I mentioned before. So there are a lot of different things, a lot of different approaches, a lot of different discussions that we may have. We need just to find the sweet spot. But the sweet spot can actually change according to where you are, so where you're operating. So, you know, like the best answer that consultants also always have is it depends. It depends from what, in this case? It depends from market maturity and the team size. So basically the brain power that you have and the investment that you can count on. So let's say on the left side, on the y-axis, you have market maturity. So if you're moving on an emerging market, or if you're moving on a more mature market that will have like different responses to new ideas, to new features. And on the x-axis, you will have like the team size, which means also the potential from your organization to get, let's say, more people to work on those things there. And we see that sometimes you have fixed because we have like short resources. So those are the things that we have to deal with. Or we may be very flexible. So we may actually get, let's say, new developers, new teams, and ramp up, let's say, different brain centers that can help us to develop things. And according to those two dimensions, we can basically see that we have like decisions have different impact. So again, like just to mention a couple, if we're moving, let's say, in an emerging market and we have like a fixed team, fixed resources, so the team size is fixed, and this is pretty common when you are, let's say, operating on a startup mode. The high impact of being wrong, the impact of being wrong is rather high. So we need to choose very carefully about what are the things that we have to build. While on the extreme opposite, if we're having, let's say, a huge amount of money, so money is not a problem, and we're moving on a mature market, well, you know, like low impact of being wrong. Like there are things that we can actually even use our intuition to make decisions, because again, like the impact is low and the cost to recover is going to be something that we can swallow. So according to those dimensions, we can adapt our method. We can actually apply the right thing. So I'm not saying that there is something wrong or some methods better than others. I would say that, again, like according to the complexity and to the efforts that we are going to put into the discussion, we are going to get something out of that. And it's all about applying the right method for the right situation, on the right context. And again, like you see the high value first, the value effort matrix, the adapted version of the WSJF, the traditional WSJF, the economic impact model that requires a lot of efforts, but is definitely giving us, let's say, more accuracy than the rest. All of them, they have like a specific dimensions, a specific context where they can be applied and they can be successful. And when we are talking about setting up, like having discussions, let's say, with our team, inside our organization, you know probably already, I'm a big fan of single or one pagers. Like this one page here is a bet one pager when we're normally collecting possible ideas. I like to call them bet. Because it represents basically very clearly that this is just an hypothesis that we're going to put on a table and try to assess it. Well, we can actually consider each bet under those dimensions. And every time we're going to discuss the specific problem, the measure of success, the challenges and risks, the importance of that specific bet, we can also take the time to decide with the team what is actually the urgency profile that applies here, what is actually the value that this bet represents for each one of the, let's say, even splitted in different dimensions, let's say user and customer and risk reduction and opportunity enablement. And again, like when we are talking about job sizing, we are definitely talking about the duration, but it might be also a very valuable conversation over the complexity of something. So again, like those things can enable people to ask the right questions and to have a good conversation inside the team. At this point, I do have everything done. So I have to thank you if you're still here listening to me and all those crazy math formulas. But happy to hear your questions if you have some. But before, let me say thank you to those people. Troy McGinnis, Donna Reinertsen is definitely one of my, those are definitely people that I do admire, and I've been copying many things from them. Joshua Arnold, Chris Matz, and also Martin Burns that recently passed. So yeah, those people are all bright minds. So I will invite you to Google them and find out all things that they wrote and they publish it. Again, like big thank you for all of you. And if you have questions, I'm here.
Thanks, Matteo. It was brilliant as usual. You're now at the third, fourth meetup with us. It's always great to have you with us.
Yeah, I think so.
Last time we did a roundup with some participants of your workshop. So we had a couple of people who joined us back in November when we had the in real person events. So we asked them basically after 6-7 months, what did you learn? What were the struggles you had throughout, etc. And today you are here to talk about the cost of delay, and we have questions. So yeah, I was just talking a bit also to gain some time because we have a 20-second delay from when you say something on Zoom to YouTube. So Simone, thanks for accepting the challenge. It was totally spontaneous, I guess. No, I'm joking. So we have 3 questions from Simone. Thanks a lot. Now, the first one, are you able to read them yourself, Matteo, or shall I read them out loud?
I can read myself.
I'll read them as well.
Okay. You want to read them? You want to read them? It's okay for me.
So what could be the first steps to shift from hippo to a more structured and reasonable approach?
Okay, that's an odd one. I mean, thank you, Simone, for asking, because this implies a lot of things. So first of all, it implies like how open is your hippo, let's say, to listen and to learn from other things, other stories, other experience, other, let's say, methods, principles that we may have. But again, like coming back to this diagram here, sorry. So probably jumping to the other extreme, I feel that this is probably not the best way to go. Again, like I would say it's about finding the right spot, finding the sweet spot that can be adapted to your specific thing. Because neither going step by step might be a good chance, a good way to move. Again, like it's not necessary to go through value first and multifaceted value or going through all those things. Again, like this is not a progression. It's more about like finding what can be applied. Again, like I see many teams just for experience, let's say, adopting this value effort matrix, which is already something. Again, like it's definitely a big step forward from an hippo conversation, because again, like it requires different points of view, it requires different level of knowledge. It definitely makes people communicating, so it enables a conversation here. But I mean, looking at my experience, I have to say that I've been very successful when I had the chance to find a hippo-based organization and propose them something that was, I don't know, way more advanced, something like the WSJF. So jumping directly there, so and start a conversation that is already complicated, but again, like somehow it worked. So again, like I will invite you to find to assess the context where you are, and don't be afraid to pick something that even may look very complicated. Okay, what's next?
Fantastic. Apologies for the noise here. So next is from Simone. Can you give us some big names from companies consistently using CD3?
Big names. Well, not that I'm aware of. Let's put it like this, because I have to say that if you're a big name, you normally are navigating, let's say, on the top right of this diagram, which means that sometimes it's not necessary to invest energies and do cool things like CD3. CD3 might be relevant, let's say, if you're on the lower spectrum, like if you're working on something like emerging markets and you have to take decisions that can be critical for you. This means that you're normally operating, let's say, on something experimental, or you are in a startup, or I mean, you're a scale up. So you're getting your market, but again, like the market is still pretty uncertain. So yeah, big names, I don't have any. But I can tell you a lot of startups that are successfully applying those approaches.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Another one from Simone. Are there good tools for using these techniques? Anything for Jira?
Oh my God, this is a very dangerous question, because my personal experience passes through Excel. So having spreadsheets, calculating all those values for me, they've been proven very helpful. Although I'm not aware about anything about Jira. So if there is a Jira plugin, probably there is, because again, like those are things that are getting popular now, and I will not be surprised if somebody had the idea of productize them. But again, like I'm normally using Excel. But I mean, with a big but, because I think that those things, again, like should not be limited to the tool itself. So I would be very happy to see people talking in front of a Miro board and try to assess the value of those things, in a proper conversation, more than sharing an Excel file with numbers there and expecting people, I don't know, like say pointing out something that is wrong there. So
Cool. Next is from Enrico Corinti. Can the damaged corporate image enter the cost of a delay for a missed feature delivered?
Okay, that's a very interesting one. Thank you, Enrico, for this question, because this is related to how we can understand. I mean, how we can include or how can we give a monetary cost of something that is not immediately translated in monetary units, basically. Like reputation, or the damage that you can get by, I don't know, parking something for a very important client, if I got your question correctly, Enrico. Again, like, I believe that there is not an easy answer for this, and if somebody here has a better answer, please write them down. I would say that in my experience, it happened that sometimes there were a perceived very high cost of delay because clients were, I mean, salespeople were coming in saying like, oh, we need, in order to sign this contract, we need to make this feature. And of course, this had, let's say, immediate, like, very high cost of delay, because otherwise the customer will go to another provider, and and it's going to be lost. In this case was easy because we had the chance of, say, at least negotiating a bit with the salespeople, and at the end we find out that it was actually possible to delay this contract for 2 months, 3 months. So it was a certain flexibility on that, and the reputation impact was basically zero. So we had no real impact on that. But again, like, there are a lot of things, let's say, on the human side, emotional side, that are very hard to compute when we are talking about determine a cost of delay in a monetary value. And that's why I would say that probably we need to also to adapt the tools. So we need to find a better way in those cases if those things are really relevant.
Excellent, thanks a lot. We have a request from Jimmy to share the links to the metrics, what tools to use when, if we can. If you want to pass them on, then I'll put them in the video description. So we got that covered. Thanks for asking that.
Sure.
Next question is from Cinzia, who thanks you for the speech. Do you think CD3 can be applied also during a big, long project to evaluate if the request for a changed feature is worth it?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. I mean, when we are talking about a feature request, like that we introduce a change, we can easily quantify what is the expected value out of this change. So we may say that if we stop everything and we start working on this, how much money we will get out of the new change. Or we can look at the other side. I mean, we can actually see how much money we are not going to lose in case this feature is going to be developed today. And again, like, we can assign a weekly cost, a monthly cost, and use this as a proxy. So yeah, I think that having, let's say, long projects that will include change requests is a perfect case for the CD3.
Amazing, thanks. We got the last one from Enrico again. Is there a better moment or cadence to do COD analysis, like in Scrum, Kanban, etc.?
My experience, those things normally I've seen happen quarterly. So quarterly, there is a moment where people are sitting around and they evaluate new ideas, product requests, change requests, something that will make, let's say, that will basically go through the backlog and reassess priorities. Why quarterly? Because this is normally a moment where you had, let's say, a good cadence where you had something that has been done, and you don't have to stop the machine in the middle of nowhere. So there is something that is already has been measured and has been, let's say, is ready now, and you can move forward. So normally, from my experience, I've seen teams, like, say, proceeding on 3-4 sprints in order to make something that was at least marketable, at least something that can be released as a first release, I mean, as a first attempt. Although, I mean, this doesn't mean that this should be a rule. So I would say that probably having a continuous process that will assess ideas coming in and having people that would be, let's say, responsible for this might be also a good idea. So we may have, like, say, I don't know, a weekly or bi-weekly moment where new ideas are basically introduced and discussed between different people that can rotate. Why not? So this definitely might be a valuable approach.
Excellent. Now, I guess with this we are done. I've just posted a message on the YouTube chat saying last round. Let's see if anything more comes our way, but I would thank you in the meantime for again for your talk and for staying around for the questions. I'll remind everyone that we have a workshop coming up with Matteo next year. Do we have? Yes.
Yes.
This one. Looks like we prepared it, but we didn't.
Yes, it's gonna be in February, first week of February, and I would really love to have you on board. So this workshop is going to be around product discovery. So everything that we're gonna do in order to acquire information to make the best decisions. But we're gonna see also how to apply those principles, those economic principles in the specific field. Again, like when we are talking about discovery, we're more talking about the value of information, how to generate information in optimal way. But you will see the same principles, the same approaches also applied in the specific field. And if I can add something related to this idea of lean value tree, that's something that also I have to thank Avanscoperta, because this was originated from the first version of the workshop that we've been doing exactly 1 year ago, if I remember well. So some of the attendees that were in that workshop had the idea of complete the picture of my approach on the lean value tree, introducing a sort of a catalog for testing the business ideas and implement it. So it's going to be in Italian. So sorry if some of you don't understand the Italian language, but I think that it's going to be very handy if you're in Italy and if you speak Italian, because it's basically giving you a lot of opportunities, a lot of options, basically how to explore bets and features before starting building them. This is a project where you have like people from Fightbean doing, let's say, being the main engine, but also Christian Face, the developer that is helping us to make this real. And again, like it's a great project that soon is going to be ready and hit your screens.
Can't wait to see it when it's going to be released. Thanks the team at Fightbean. We had a great time last year, exactly, yeah, more or less 1 year ago. Thanks to all other participants who took part as well. Matteo, I guess that is it. Thanks a lot for everything.
Thanks for having me again. Like,
no worries, always a pleasure, and we'll see you in the online classroom next year.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.